Hi, Natalie. Welcome to the podcast Brain in You.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm very excited here today because this is somebody who's very similar to the profile I have, which is in the field of nutrition. Both you and I share this passion of nutrition. Just that today is special for me because this is the first time I'm having a nutritionist on
Oh,
the podcast. And that too, somebody who has a personal story in autism. So who can give nutrition plus, personally backed hacks or solutions or her own experiences. So I think the people watching this will 100% go back benefited because they will have some clear next steps in mind. And let me give you a bit of a background about the kind of people who I will be sharing this with. So my company, Iyurved, provides nutritional supplements for daily active brain. Now, the viewers are mostly parents of neurodiverse children or neurodiverse adults themselves. So far, we have reached out to almost over 500,000 such children. So I
I
would say
mean,
about 1 million parents. So
that's
this,
amazing.
whatever you say today, will be useful to them. So
I'm
let's
so excited.
begin. Yeah, why don't we first begin, Natalie, by you introducing yourself?
Yes, so my name is Natalie Pelto. I'm actually from Northern Canada, so it's still actually got snow here.
Yeah.
And so, the quickest version of this is that my entire life, I never pictured myself to be passionate about nutrition until I was basically a catalytic moment happened. And my son was was diagnosed with severe nonverbal autism. He was 5 years old and still had absolutely no words, non-speaking. When the subject of iPad communication therapy came up, and this was like 10 years ago, so you can imagine like iPads were new, the thought of my son being forced to speak to me through a machine felt so disconnected that it literally lit a fire within me. And I had access to everything. I think that's like one of the things I always say. Like, I had access to medical documents, I was good at research, I understood research, and there was nothing. And so I came into the world of nutrition almost by accident.
Mm,
And
mm,
when I learned that nutrition could change the
mm,
physiology of our microbiome, so
mm,
helping our gut, I
mm,
became so passionate about learning
mm,
about all this
mm,
that it just propelled me to today. Now, I never expected, honestly, I always tell people it was good for me not to know what was possible because it never set the expectation that my son would be where he is today, which, to keep that long story short, he actually lost his diagnosis and is fully functional. He is 15 years old. He's in the mainstream high school. If you think about all of the labels or all of the umbrellas that go with autism, academically, he's brilliant. Socially, he's absolutely got more friends than I ever did. And I was considered a social butterfly. And looking at him today, like, he is going to thrive for the rest of his life. And so you can imagine that this is where it has brought me into the world of having to share this. It would actually be a disservice to the world if I didn't. So there's a
absolutely.
responsibility, right, that we
Yeah,
get when we
yeah,
see these
yeah.
changes.
And
So that's
I
the
am
short
not
version.
surprised. I'm super happy, but I'm not surprised because we have seen the same things happen. And I know that food has that power. So, and like you said, those microbiomes, the way food is absorbed in the body, what kind of new neural pathways it is actually building,
That's
or
right.
the neurons it's reactivating, or maybe the connections, everything. And I'm not saying that it's only food, it is a lot of functioning with the brain as well, but food plays such a huge role. Uh, yeah,
Well,
so
just for one pathway, for example, like for especially with kids who are very addicted to screens, that dopamine pathway literally needs about 7 to 10 nutrients to attach to like the fancy part called the cofactor to just make that run once. And so all the functions of the brain require
yeah,
nutrients. And it's
yeah,
something that we don't talk about. It's something
yeah,
physicians are not taught about
yeah.
unless they go
No.
outside of their scope.
No, they aren't. They're not. And initially, I'll just give this backstory that when we started Ayurved, we used to get a lot of backlash from the experts, the therapists, saying that, you are here to fix something that we could not. And I'm saying I'm not your competitor. I mean,
Mm-mm.
brain stimulation is equally important as feeding the right nutrition to brain. So we both have to do our jobs.
Yeah,
And we
we're
have
holding
seen
hands.
absolute success. We have seen so much of success. So
And then, and
I know you would have faced it too. Yeah.
Yeah, and times are changing. Like I have had the opportunity to actually go teach in hospitals at Grand Rounds to neurodevelopmental teams where they are open now to changing the
Very
dynamics.
nice. Mm,
So it's really fun. Honestly,
mm.
we're further than I thought we would be in 10 years. Are we far enough? Nowhere near, but it's changing and it's great.
Amazing, amazing. So while we are on this, tell me, what do you think should be the first step that a parent should take after the child is diagnosed?
So it really is dependent on if they're a picky eater or not. If they are a picky eater, then the first step will always be to overcome, yes, what it seems like a mountain, but we have hundreds of people in our program. And honestly, for a picky eater, we literally see children go from nonverbal, non-speaking to speech. In some cases, within like 2 weeks, we have new words. In some cases, in 3 months, we have like literally
Yeah,
hundreds of words. And I think that that is like, if you have a picky eater, that's the place you want to go. The second one that I would say is that if you don't have a picky eater and they're eating upwards to 35 to 50 plants per week, and this includes like a diversity, it's not just fruits and vegetables, it's like, whole grains and nuts and seeds, then we can actually look at more is there a toxicity issue? And then we have to look at the background.
yeah.
And I think
Got it.
that's where I usually look at, right?
So you touched on picky eaters. So for picky eaters, how do you build food diversity?
Oh,
Should I repeat? I think there was, yeah.
there was a little
Okay.
freeze, but I don't think that
Okay.
we
No,
lost
no.
anything.
Okay, I'll repeat it. So for picky eaters, how would you suggest to build food diversity?
Yeah, so you use what's working. Unlike what we coined, or I coined this framework of the 4 E's. I'm always happy to share it freely. Is environment has to be absolutely um, really fun. We learn 400 times faster in fun than we do in repetition, and so the environment matters so much. Emotional intelligence from the parent is second, and then making sure that we have expectation, but our expectations meet
All right.
where they're at today, and encouragement. So what that looks like, we call
Amazing.
it the fading technique. And the fading
Yeah.
technique is something I always joke. If you are someone who's a parent and you've been to a painting class or a drawing class, they give you instructions all throughout, right? Well, our current feeding therapy is often going from the first line to the complete picture. And everything in between, they don't get, which is why in many cases, it's very ineffective.
Yeah.
So the fading technique is like filling in the rest of the painting. And so it's using what's working and slowly at about 10% fading in different nutrients. Because at the beginning, we focus heavily on the psychology of picky eating when it's both a physical and a psychological issue. And
Mm,
if you can change the
mm,
physiology of the body,
mm,
food doesn't
mm,
taste as bitter, anxiety goes down, and the physical
mm,
component can we can then work with the psychological component. So an example would
mm.
be, and a lot of people have like the chicken nugget children, or they have the bread and cheese children. No matter what part of the world, this seems to be very like the high addictive
Yeah.
of carbohydrates. And you're in India, correct?
Yeah.
And so in India, it's often like dosa that gets really, really enjoyed, but not so much with the gravies. And so one of my fading techniques for a lot of people in India, because we do work with people in India, is to fade in and blend things into the gravies.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's your starting point. And then
Yeah.
you grow from there.
Yeah. Yeah. I say that too. I mean, we have launched products which can easily just go in the gravy that the child likes, or whatever, the oatmeal or whatever, and it's not seen, it's just it enters
Yeah.
the body. So yeah, yeah, I agree with it. So what do you think is the one biggest mistake that parents often make?
That they avoid, that they focus just on the supplementation. I think that supplements have absolutely a time and place and are amazing. It's just that if you do not do the foundations, it's like you're putting out the smoke of a fire. And cellularly, you really do need, like, for example, a piece of broccoli will support your liver, it's going to feed your microbiome, and it's going to support your brain development. Whereas sometimes it's going to take about 3 supplements to do that. So they can work hand in hand, but don't ignore the nutrition. This is where I see
Yeah,
the biggest mistakes. We have people
yeah,
who have done biomedical come in and done all kinds of functional, and truthfully, they see the changes mostly when they either combine the two or they really dive into the nutrition aspect.
yeah, yeah. I agree. I give this example of spinach a lot. That you can take iron supplement, which you have no idea is not getting fully absorbed in the body, but you just feel so relaxed from the mind that you gave it. Whereas you can eat the spinach, which not only has that, it has so much more, so many antioxidants, vitamins, fiber, protein, whatnot. So yeah, I agree with that. You just answered another question that I was about to ask, why food is better than supplements. Do you
Yes,
want to go for
it
it?
is because, yeah. So just to dive a little deeper, it's multi-dimensional. It's going to work with, like, we are systemic. We come from a healthcare system that breaks the body apart into specialists. Like we have a urologist, a cardiologist, a neurologist, right? We have broken down the body when truly it's one systemic system. And so we were given on this earth the food made to make that system work. And so when we separate ourselves to high processed and start to consume high processed foods or even focus on other things, then the system is what needs to have
Yeah,
that support.
yeah, I
Yeah,
agree. So this is something I also learned, Natalie, when I was studying nutrition is not just the format of the nutrition, but the partner ingredients. What does the nutrition partner with that it goes in the body? And that
that's right.
partner nutrient is normally not there in a supplement. You're just taking a tonic of zinc, a tonic of iron, popping some gummy of calcium. It doesn't work. So yeah, yeah, I agree with that. So Natalie, if you were to go back
Mhm.
and if you were to change one thing you did, what will that be?
That's an interesting question. I think, and it's me. I don't know if anyone's ever told you this. I don't think I would change anything. I mean, of course, I would have really preferred to not have gone through the journey that I did, but I think that it's something that was catalytic to change pieces of the world. I have like a small piece to change and to inspire. You have a small piece to change and to inspire. And the truth is that if this hadn't happened, I don't know how many children we would continue to see. It would not even be on my radar. If someone
Mm,
would have told me when I
mm,
was like
yeah,
leaving high school, going into
yeah,
healthcare, that I would one day be a champion, like basically a campaigner for autism support and for I would even go as far as saying like recovery of very, very um, severe symptoms so that these children could thrive and be verbal and independent. Whatever that looks like for them, I think I would have never even imagined that. But it is the journey that made us this way. So there's not really anything I
I
would
like
change.
that.
I think that if I had to say, it would probably be that I would not have focused on going grain free.
Mm,
At first, I did, and when we reintroduced things like quinoa and high quality grains, my son's brain like it
yeah,
just really
yeah,
started
yeah,
to work.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
of all parts of our journey, maybe that was the one because I think I would have gotten a little more time back.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely. No, no, whole grains have so much. I mean, when I do these presentations on nutrition for the brain, whole grains just feature across all the nutrients that are needed. I mean, they have just everything. So yeah, that's a good thing to say. And I actually appreciate your answer because a lot of parents have this doubt in mind that should I go grain free because maybe that's going to fix
Yes.
autism. So glad you answered that. Yeah.
It's kind of no different than talking about carnivores. And I'm not going to say anything negative about that at all, the whole, because I don't like to take that approach. But the idea is any elimination diet will help you for a very short period of time because you're removing the harmful foods. It's not necessarily because you remove the good food. We just don't notice that. We just assume it's because we've done that.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Mhm.
What is the most common myth that parents carry?
Oh, well, I'd probably say the grain myth, or no, actually, I'll tell you this one. This is the one I see the most, is that going gluten and dairy free is going to be the only thing you need to do.
I love that. Can you go
Yeah.
deeper?
Yeah, so the focus is always on the removal versus the focus on the bringing in the nutrition or the nourishment that the brain needs. So I have like probably this conversation 100 times a day of families saying, "Well, I went gluten-free, dairy-free, and sugar-free, and my son is still not speaking or my daughter
Yeah.
is still not
Yeah.
speaking." And I always say, but that's great. It is part of the process, elimination of things that are harmful. But at the same time, what about the things that feed the brain, that make those connections and neuronic axons move
Yeah.
forward? How do we
Yeah.
how do we get that in?
Yeah.
So that is probably the biggest one.
I really appreciate you saying that because we get to hear this question so often, even in India, and we are a wheat-fed wheat-fed country, heavily. We survive on wheat. So imagine taking gluten out of your diet is like taking that whole roti chapati out of your diet. Now we get to hear this so often that, and people have blindly followed that. And they ask me this question that should we be gluten free and casein dairy free? And I say, is it causing any discomfort to the child? If the child is
Yes.
absolutely happy and you don't see anything, that means the gut is able to manage it, gut is able to
Yeah.
take
And
it.
I agree with this. And the truth is that in your part of the world, wheat is actually made to grow. People will say that glyphosate is the problem here in the United States. And I do agree with it is a huge problem. But the problem truly stems from the fact that we had to, like, wheat is not meant to grow where we live. It is literally a
Exactly.
GMO
Yes.
seed.
Yes. Yes.
And so I'll
Yeah.
ask people if they're
Yeah.
bringing wheat or flour from overseas. Now, one of the issues that we do see though is that, especially even in India and other countries, is that the processed food is actually going up.
Very.
And so the quality of what you would expect sometimes isn't there. And
Yeah.
that is what is sometimes impacting the
Yeah,
gut.
yeah, yeah. And which is why I think going back to your previous point that, we should keep pushing people to go for whole grains. Like you said, high quality whole grains. Just stick to
Yes.
whole grains. Don't just, I think I like the statement that, just accept the food in which the nature gave you. Simple as that. And they've actually
Yeah.
combined all the partner nutrients together anyways. You don't
Yeah.
have to
It's a
worry
beautiful
about it.
package.
Yeah,
It's
it's
a
a beautiful
beautiful little
package. Yeah,
package.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Agree. Yeah. So tell me, Natalie, one hack to reduce hyperactivity through nutrition.
Oh, I love that. Actually, my hack for one of the best hacks that I have seen is start to include a diversity of seeds. Seeds surprisingly have almost every single nutrient that supports magnesium, omega 3s, all of the things that you need to have a focused child. And a focused child is usually a calm child.
Yeah. And very high protein and fiber. So I think what people need to understand is that the spike in blood sugar is something that
Yes.
they have to manage. If you
Mhm.
partner whatever natural sweetener also that you're giving with the fiber of the fruit or the fiber of that product, you're going to be fine.
It's
The
going to be
moment
different.
you
Yeah.
extract, so I've seen people taking date extracts. If you take date
Mm.
extracts and you let go of the fiber of the date, obviously you're going to see some hyperactive. It is not the date's fault.
No, it's
It
not the
is
date's
no.
in its full form. It literally, and it's surprising because the sugar content in dates is like in the 40s for one date, but at the same time, it's still considered a low glycemic food or a medium
Yeah,
glycemic food,
yeah,
which means
yeah.
that it's so high
Yes,
fiber. It's
exactly,
true. It's
exactly.
amazing.
Yeah.
I love
Okay.
dates. We're big
I
date people here.
Oh, I love dates. I love fig. Yeah, yeah. And
I'm a
and
big-
you just feel so healthy, in brackets, guilt-free.
Yes. Yes.
And
All the
then,
things.
yeah. Okay, Natalie, I want to end with this question. What is your success mantra?
My success mantra, there's a few, but how I do one thing is how I do everything.
Hmm,
Because no
hmm,
matter what, and it's funny, I've had lots of phrases that have stuck with me over the years. And the reason that that one has really come back over and over again is that when I have found myself dip in any of my habits, because everything is about consistency, it's because and it dips everywhere. And so I realized quite quickly that if I maintain one healthy habit and I focus on that one very, very much, then
hmm.
it actually pours, how I do that one thing starts to pour into how I do everything.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's actually, it resonates with this book. I don't know if you've read it, called Atomic Habits.
I have read Atomic Habits. Yes, I do a lot
Yeah.
of personal. I think it's a
Uh,
thing that just business owners
yeah.
do. We constantly have to be going against and being uncomfortable, and so I do love it. Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. I love this. Is there anything else that you want to say before we end it?
Remember that your child is in there, and no matter what, whether they're nonverbal or they are verbal, or especially if they're nonverbal, because the truth is that I see in every nonverbal child my son, and if he can get to where he was with the background that I had, anybody can do it, and our children deserve to live the life of their dreams.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much, Natalie. This has been amazing. It felt like a rapid fire round. I just loved it.
Yeah, I love talking. I absolutely I love this podcast. I think the fact that it's short is amazing. I also think that families that can have quick fire information, it makes it easier to come back to,
Yeah.
and they can put it into action. And overcome picky eating. Everybody overcome picky eating. Please do.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. We'll chat soon.